How do I do that? How do I just let go of this belief?
You don't just let go. Oh, you guys. No, it's not like you adopt. Okay, in your childhood, you develop these beliefs and you back them up with crap tons of proof. One doesn't just go, ah. No, you, you really have to look at it and chew on it and twist it and contort it. Snap it. It takes long because nobody makes that a conscious process. This is what most people do. I've got this belief that men are shitty. I'm going to go on dates. Let me see if this experience makes me feel like men are not as shitty. Men are shitty, right? They're not like taking that thought and being like, okay, let's dive into this so deep that I'm going to mess with my own mind. That's why I love philosophy. What philosophers understood is that you can set yourself free only by questioning these things to the degree that they cannot exist in a solid form anymore. Only then are these thoughts pliable enough that you can see through a different perspective. Don't ever try to just let go of a belief.
Teal Swan is 1000% correct. I often at times have people ask me the same question as well. Marv, how can I get rid of these beliefs around my SP? Marv, how can I get rid of these beliefs that I have about men? How can I get rid of these beliefs that I have about women? And the answer is, in the beginning, for most of you, it's not going to be an overnight process. And that is the toxic side of manifestation, where the manifestation community has been taught to believe that you can get rid of beliefs extremely quickly. And yes, for some of you, that will be the case. But for majority of you, in my opinion, that will not be the case. And Teal Swan just alluded to it, because you're consciously not making it a process. For your entire life, for however long you've been on this planet, whenever you started to accumulate bad ideas or bad beliefs, whatever the case, around whatever the topic is, family, money, work, relationships, whatever the topic is, for however long, for you, it might only be 5 years. For somebody else, it might be 15 years. For another person, it could be 30, 40, 50 years. Think about you spending 50 years of your life accumulating bad thoughts and bad habits. You think for most people, you're just going to be able to undo those thoughts, undo those beliefs overnight? I think you all know the answer to that. The good news is it's not going to take you as long to undo those negative beliefs as it did to help you accumulate those negative beliefs. The thing that a lot of us don't realize is we become our experiences. So once enough bad experiences accumulate, we start to think this is life. We start to think, oh, this is relationships. Relationships are always going to be this way. This is just how men are. This is just how women are. Oh, this is just what it's like to work at a place like this. And so what happens is we begin to expect it and perpetuate it. And then that begins to spill over into all areas of our lives. And then we think, oh, this is just life. This is just how life is. And that becomes the internal affirmation. But when you make this a conscious process and you start to really look at your beliefs, you start to really look at your childhood, you start to really look at everything that you've gone through. And when you start to, most importantly, take accountability, because really, if you want to become a powerful manifestor in your life, you have to take accountability on levels that most people will never even know. Only then you can begin to tap into real power, because what will end up happening is you will stop looking outside of yourself and you will stop blaming others for why things are happening. And you will start to internally shift and say, how am I playing a role in this? What do I keep saying yes to that I should be saying no to? What are my unconscious and conscious beliefs about this particular area of my life? And then once you address that, only you can begin to really unpack your belief system, because it took you 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to accumulate these belief systems that you have. So in all actuality, it's going to take you a little bit of time to undo those beliefs. But in my opinion, it will only take you a fraction of the time. We've all heard that saying, old people are stubborn. The older you get, the more stuck in your ways you are. This is why. Because the experiences that you've gone through have shaped you, usually for the worse. But most importantly, I want you guys to understand you're not doing anything wrong just because you still have these negative beliefs that pop up. The negative beliefs are going to pop up. What your job is to understand that this is just a normal part of the process, and to not get discouraged and to think, oh, I'm doing this wrong. Why do I keep having these beliefs? If I was doing this right, if I was affirming right, or if I was visualizing right, these beliefs wouldn't keep popping up. No, those beliefs most likely will continue to pop up throughout the rest of your life. Your job is to just remind yourself that whatever these beliefs are, whatever these thoughts are that are popping up, they're not true. And this is just part of me, the old man or the old woman, telling the old story, while also remembering that the human brain has whatever that number is, 60 plus thousand thoughts every day. You have to understand most of those thoughts are unconscious, while also understanding that's just what the brain does. Let the brain do what the brain does. The brain is going to think negative thoughts. The brain is going to think positive thoughts. Only you are assigning the meaning to these thoughts. If I think a bad thought, I think nothing of it. I just know that that's the brain doing what the brain does. I don't start to dive deep and start to criticize myself and chastise myself and say, man, why do I keep thinking this? Why did I think this again? And start beating myself up and going down this dark rabbit hole. I never take that approach because I've gotten to a place where I don't judge myself on a negative belief that pops up. And that's what a lot of you do, is you judge yourself on a negative belief that pops up. I let my brain do what it wants to do while teaching myself more and more to accept the good thoughts and to not really pay attention to the bad thoughts or the bad beliefs. When you find yourself having negative thoughts or negative beliefs about something, I think that that's just a reminder that you have to get your mind under control. And I think a great way to get your mind under control is meditation. Just sitting in silence or throwing on a meditation with music, with the different chakra sounds, and just trying your best to stop thought. Just trying your best to focus on something other than what's going on in your mind. Focus on your heartbeat, or put a candle out and light it and just focus on that flame of that candle. Just basically doing something to just take your mind off of your thoughts and your beliefs. Meditation is a great way to silence the mind and to stop the noise, because that's really what negative beliefs are, in my opinion. Is just an overreaction of the mind and not enough silencing of the mind. Because when you have a negative belief about something, you're constantly thinking about it over and over and over and over. Some of you will try to take the Neville Goddard law of assumption approach, and that can work for some of you. However, it's probably going to be extremely difficult for most of you to take that approach, to just try to assume you don't have those negative beliefs anymore. And I think it's much more practical for some of you to take a much more 3D approach, or to take a meditation approach to try to help you with your negative beliefs. And you really can, in my opinion, only get down to the bottom of your beliefs by questioning your beliefs. Most people never really take the time, and like she said, they don't make it a conscious process, which is why it takes so long. Most people never really ask the right questions and get down to where their beliefs came from. And this is an imperative part, because essentially taking the time to ask those questions is basically no different than Neville telling you to go back and to revise the past. When you go back and revise the past, you're basically going back to situations and you're asking yourself, okay, where did this belief come from? Why is this belief here? Okay, now let me change this belief. Let me change this end scene from how it happened to how I wished it would have happened. And now you can see how the correlation ties in. But most people never do that. Most people, they've gotten caught up with the toxicity of this community, and they think that they're just going to naturally assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, or assume that I no longer have that negative belief, or I'm just going to affirm that negative belief away. The approach that most of you are going to have to take is, most of you really are going to have to ask those questions. You really are going to have to take a deep dive and look at your thoughts about men. If you are always attracting the wrong men, you're going to have to really take a look at your beliefs about women if you always are attracting the wrong women. And this could take time. So again, don't allow the law of assumption or the SP community or whatever to gaslight you, to make you think, oh, I'm doing this wrong. How can I get rid of this belief? These beliefs that are holding me back. A lot of times the belief isn't holding you back. What's holding you back is the refusal to look at the belief and to try to, as I like to say, put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. You can't put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. You have to get surgical with that. You have to first remove the bullet. You have to remove the fragments. You have to get all stitched up, and then you can put the bandage on top. And that's the approach most of you are going to have to take. Stop judging yourself for the beliefs that you have or the negative thoughts that you have, because we all, at the end of the day, we all have negative beliefs. We all have negative thoughts. What separates us, the difference is, for somebody like a Teal Swan or somebody like myself, we understand that these negative thoughts, these negative beliefs are just doing that. They're just that. They're just a negative thought. It's just passing through my brain. If I have a negative thought, or if I have a negative belief and it just passes through my brain and I don't attach any meaning to it, it's powerless. Just like if you have a negative thought about women, or negative thought about men, or negative thought about money, or whatever the case might be, you don't attach any meaning to it, any feeling to it, it's going to pass. It does nothing. The problem is when you start to have those thoughts and those beliefs and you start to attach deep, fervent meaning to it. Now you're going down the path of making this belief to come into your reality, because now you're feeling that belief real. Beliefs mean nothing if you don't feel it real. So if you have a belief or a thought that crosses your mind about men or about women, it means nothing if you're not feeling it real, if you don't really believe it. But if you do believe it, then now that's when we have to deal with it and we have to unpack everything. Other than that, most of you guys out there, you're really not doing anything wrong. Some of you out there are doing stuff. You're like, oh, I've been doing affirmations and visualizations for a month, 2 months, 6 months, or whatever, and these beliefs are still here. Guess what? The beliefs are going to be there. Assign it a different meaning. Just because the belief is there doesn't mean that you have to assign the same meaning that you used to have to it. Assign the belief a different meaning. When those thoughts pop up, assign it a different meaning. Give it a different emotional attachment instead of the same emotional attachment that you've had to it for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the case might be for you. This, in my opinion, is the key to dealing with negative thoughts or negative beliefs around any area. Know that the brain is doing what it does. When you have that thought, question that thought. Get down to the root of that thought. Get down to the root of the belief and just tell yourself, this no longer serves me. This belief is no longer true. This belief is getting weaker and weaker each day. However you want to phrase it. All of these are affirmations. But just know that all of us have beliefs, whether negative, whether positive, and we will continue to have beliefs, negative and positive. But it's a matter of, are these beliefs consuming you for the better or are they consuming you for the worse? And to change your emotional reaction when facing these beliefs. That is true revision. That is true alchemy.